Welcome to Cosmic Roadmap. I'm your host, Melissa Langjahr, Reiki Astrogeo Guide and author. I support endless wanderers with where they are meant to be in the world. This podcast is for the digital nomad, the avid traveler, and aspiring globetrotter who is seeking their next destination on planet Earth. Join us as we venture around the world through people's stories and how astrogeography has connected them to their planetary energies and purpose. My special guest today is Karlyn Langjahr. She is a perfection slayer and surrender specialist who guides ambitious leaders out of the grip of their overdoing and people-pleasing to create more freedom in their lives and Google calendars. A former wildlife conservation professional, Karlyn infuses ecology with her embodied life experiences across the globe into her coaching work, which includes energy work, somatic practices, mindset, shadow work, ceremony, and much more. So welcome, Karlyn. We met through mutual friends, Melissa Chernow, Ashley Dufresne, that was in the first multi-author book, Legacy Speaks. And we connected through the Facebook group at the time of the launch. And ever since we've been connected, and now you're in my Passport to Purpose group experience that I have, which I've had the pleasure of guiding you through your own astro map. So welcome.
Thank you. Yes, and that has been such a fun journey. I think we've got 2 more calls.
Yes, it's amazing. I started the group experience not thinking it was going to be anything, and it's been amazing to guide 10 wonderful individuals through that. And you'll be guiding me pretty soon through your own one-on-one immersion program. So I'm excited about that as I transition out of my job and go into full-time digital nomad life. I've seen you do it, and I'm so excited to
I'm so excited for you
to follow in your footsteps as well. So it's almost, what is it, the teacher-student role interchanging, right? There is no pedestal. So we're all at the same level, guiding each other and teaching each other as well. So welcome. How has your life been since your Astrogeo session, and also through the program, like what you've been learning, like diving deeper into your maps? What are the cosmic connections that you finally realized? I know that you were deep into your astro maps even before we met, and this has allowed you to gain a better understanding, more clarity.
Thank you so much for having me, and how fun it's been to really just bring these to light, these energies, and look back when we had our session together. I got a lot more detailed insight, and you're really good at working with the interplays of the different lines and energies.
Right.
So expertise brings in different influences that can work against each other or with each other. And so that really helped expand my understanding of some of the dynamics at play. And in the journey with Passport to Purpose, the one-on-one session is beautiful, and I recommend that everyone has it because it's just really fun. And I've loved taking the deeper dives and really piecing through places. I think what's been especially illuminating to me is all the different places that I've been in the world through work and travel, is that so many of the places were aligned. Just following some natural niggle always took me to places where I got what I needed to get at that moment in my path.
Because we're usually called or pulled to a certain place. And that's why I love asking, what are those top 3 places that you want to look at? Because usually intuitively we've been called to certain places, and the session is what kind of brings to light, oh, I had moonline, like I've always felt at home, and that's why I've been called to that particular place, because it's almost like you're seeking home within you, and you may not be living on a home line per se. Like I live on my Pluto line, so I'm constantly seeking the lines of love, the Venus lines in particular, and that's where I plan to travel soon to Spain. But yeah, it's interesting how intuitively we're called to certain places. You were intuitively called to Mexico, and that's where you are right now. And how did you end up there?
So it's really interesting. I just felt this pull after leaving Africa right before the pandemic. So spending the pandemic in my home country of the US, which I don't really feel this huge tie to per se. I don't identify myself as I'm an American. It's
right.
Who I am, it truly is, but I don't really feel attached to it. And I was called back to like a Latin American country, somewhere in the Americas, to not be quite as far away from family and friends in North America, but also to reconnect with my time that I lived in Panama and Costa Rica for a while. So
Right.
connecting back to Spanish, the cultural influences, the climate, that warm hospitality that you get in these cultures. When I was living in the Caribbean, my late husband and I had friends who we just followed each other's journeys because they're big travelers too. And they just mentioned that they had spent 15 months in the town where I am now and just said, hey, you should check it out. And my mom's 70th birthday was happening in a big city to the south. So I thought, while I'm there, I'll just take a taxi up and check out this town and just feel into the energy on the taxi. I just started crying. My body had this full body, like tears streaming down my face as we drove, seeing the jungle on one side and then the ocean on the other. And it was like, this is the vision I've had in some quantum meditations.
But it was almost like you were coming home, like you're like,
yes,
yeah, like this remembrance. Yeah, wow.
Looking at the place on the map, which you helped guide me through, is not only that my moon line goes right through a point just south of this town.
Yeah.
And also really close to the Mercury line of communication.
Exactly. Yes.
So that has been really opening.
Yeah, and I was just about to bring that up, and you're so good at remembering the energies. But the moon energy there, it's MC, so that's related to future and career. So it's very interesting that you're there connecting, almost getting deeper into your career, because that's a place where you find balance. You find balance in your personal life and also your work life. So is that something that you found there? Because I catch your stories and you're taking that walk and also diving deep into starting these programs within your coaching business.
I would say that's very much the case in the shift from where I spent the pandemic in rural Wyoming, which was absolutely stunning and right next to my sun line.
So it was the illumination.
And very like random, quote unquote random, and nothing ever is random, but how I ended up there. And then I ended up there before I got exposed to your work and looking into Astrogeo. So it was just like, how in this middle of rinky dink Wyoming, and I'm right on this important line. And that's where I registered my business as an LLC.
Interesting.
And it was fun really starting off and really coming more into my power there. And then here I've been able to really shift the leadership message of the work that I do, hone it to a deeper level. And also what it feels like is that it's growing more from this is my spiritual business to this is really a movement that I want to lead. And it's taking my vision into an action-oriented, like, come with me if you're on this mission of getting out of this place of not just what we're doing in our successful lives that we've built for ourselves, but how and who we are being in that. And that is the radical reason why I left my former career, which I loved passionately, but I no longer loved who and how I was being in what I was doing. Wow. And it took, my husband's tragic death to make me re-examine and re-question that while we were living in Zambia. And so that's been my kind of journey to really realigning to my soul's mission so that I can do not only what I love, but in a way, and being the person I love as well.
And you touched upon being a wildlife conservationist. Like, how did you get into that work? How did you end up in Africa in those particular places? Every time I talk to you, it's like, oh yeah, I've been to this place in Africa. And most people don't go to these places, and you have fond memories. So yeah, how did you end up there? And what are the energies that you felt there now that you know the energies that you have at play there?
Well, I got into wildlife conservation because truly I would say nature and wildlife is my number one passion. It's like the love of my life. and in some regards. And I was following my heart and my dreams by taking that path. And so the path also just led me to opportunities, internships, Peace Corps in places like Panama, and then the Philippines, working in the Caribbean, then in Zanzibar, back to Central America, Olympic Peninsula. So just moving to a lot of different places for different opportunities. And then had the opportunity to work in Zambia when my husband and I were really pulled to go back there. And it was smack dab in the bush next to the premier national park in Zambia. So elephants would come through the yard. We had a resident leopard. We would fall asleep to the sound of lions and hyenas. It was truly magical. It was just like, I can't believe I wake up to this. Baboons and vervet monkeys would roost in the trees. So you'd hear them pee or poop on the rooftop or slam onto the roof when they're waking up in the morning. And
exactly.
I think in terms of linking to my current mission of working with people who are really ambitious, yet overachieving, overdoing from this place of deep-seated wounds in being good enough and lack of worthiness stories. So it's what I'm finding is that animals and nature took me to the place of connection, took me to that place of awe and wonder and joy and just other, divine connection. And I wasn't even conscious of it, but because I was trained to be like a good girl and really conditioned to be a perfectionist and people pleaser, and that was so rooted in me and how I was being and how I was showing up in my relationships, in my job, that I really needed the animals and the wild places to calibrate me, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. And you mentioned that, and we recently had a discussion about me connecting with a cat in my adult life. I never had a connection to cats. My mother didn't really love cats growing up, so we never had one. We had dogs. And so I never experienced like that aloof, unconditional love that a cat gives you. So when I encountered a feral cat, that was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I started feeding this cat. I think it was a neighborhood cat, but it wasn't really feral. In the end, I started looking for a cat of my own, and that's when I adopted. And that was just like the love of my life, and realized the unconditional love that these animals can give you. And I was a cat lover from that moment on. But I always say that cats they've taught me unconditional love, because they show up when they want to be pet, like they have their boundaries, and just
boundaries.
The boundaries exactly.
Is such a good word.
So
they hold their energy. They really respect their own energy, and I love that, because cats can be so different. The individuals, you can get cats that are almost like dogs in their friendliness and cuddliness, and you get the uber aloof cats that
and I had both. I had the really sweet one, and then the one that was like, no, you're not going to touch me, okay. But then when she wanted love and affection, she would come over, and I understood, okay, it was unconditional love from my end, because a lot of dog owners also, they love like the dogs like constantly like seeking attention, and this cat was just not did not want it, but she would definitely come over and ask for it when she did want it. It did teach me to love unconditionally in that sense. I love animals and what they teach us.
And I don't know if you heard or read this in your Reiki trainings, because I know we're both Reiki masters, but at one point I came across someone sharing that cats naturally give Reiki to each other.
Oh,
that's really interesting.
I usually see them massaging. Like they had this natural instinct to massage, but I could see that. I could definitely see that. I used to try and give Reiki to my cat. And I think, I think she enjoyed it. But they're definitely attuned to energies. Your guides speak through animals. So talk a little bit about that, like your connection with animals. So you had this deep connection in Africa, and how did that continue on to now? Because now you're channeling or signs all over.
Yes, in retrospect, when I look back and I see how powerful animal signs were always in my life. I just wasn't conscious to them, or it wasn't in my forefront. And then along this, I think I've been on a spiritual awakening for 20 plus years, and it just really spiked. Like, it was like, no, now you're on a rocket ship. Year by year now, like, boom, we're going to take you, you know.
The quantum leap, yeah.
Which makes sense for the double Scorpio in me. But I would say, yeah, transformation, rebirth.
Right, because yes, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto.
Rebirth,
Yes.
rebirth.
All over the
Can't
place.
get away from it. And I've stopped trying to get away from it. I think it's when we resist, that's when things persist more. And I think nature teaches us that we can respect the natural flow state. We've really gotten out of our natural flow state. And even just when you look at how we operate, as if everyone's supposed to be a generator, human design, and be in that go, 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 do energy.
Right.
And not enough vacation, not enough rest and time to really reconnect to ourselves and reconnect to the bigger picture, our broader perspective in this universe, this multidimensional universe. And so we become really detached from that. But I think animals help bring us back to that, our own natural state of flow.
Right.
And
just,
then I started
just being, right? Just being themselves. Like they don't have to do anything else. And so, yeah, sometimes we're doing but not being, right? Just, yeah.
An animal channel mentor who I follow has explained that animals don't have ego. Humans have ego, but they do have emotions. So when I tapped into that, I was like, oh, wow, that's why they don't resist things. So that's why they don't get attached to, they just live, and life and death and whatever happens in between, it's just what happens. Whereas humans, we make all of these stories up around it. We get sucked into this is good and this is bad, or avoid this, or I'm clinging to this, and which is also very sacred, the sacred essential duality of our experience, but to embrace it and to be able to hold both sides of the coin at the same time in an empowered way,
right,
and not have to have the either or mindset that our ego really likes to choose the this or that, or you can only do this, or this is safe, what you're doing there isn't safe because we've never seen that, we've never done that before.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to the energies that you have in Africa, which ones call out to you the most? I know Pluto was one of the major ones, and that's where your late husband took his life. And was that also in Zambia, or?
That was in Zambia.
Yeah.
Because we had lived in Zanzibar in 2009 to 2011, and then went to Zambia in 2017. And I would say, okay, so there was definitely the Pluto line right next to where we were in Zambia. And then living in Tanzania, Tanzania also felt it's the main country of Zanzibar, belongs to, it's a semi-autonomous government of Tanzania. And there were some beautiful lines there too when I look back, like
the Venus line, right? You have your love line.
And then a little bit of Mercury.
So communication. Yeah, and I also see like moon energy there. You had so much energy in Africa, which, yeah, it makes sense that you were so called and drawn there, and felt so at home and surrounded by love.
And just, yeah, the love for the animals. It's an evolving journey. It's a little more activated since moving to Mexico, where it's been actually mostly birds kind of channeling messages to me. So I'm still honing that, and I know it's one of my soul gifts, but I'm not actually attached to it. Like, I'm excited about it, but it's holding in its divine timing. But it just allows me to come back to myself and my mission of working with people to get out of this doing hamster wheel of life, to the point where they're no longer enjoying the success that they've built, even though they're living a career that aligns, they've created their family, they have love, friends, community, but it's hectic and they're overwhelmed and they just feel like everything's by the calendar. And, you want to see it. How about a month from now, I've got Wednesday at 5:25 p.m. It's just, and a lot of my clients really struggle with that. They're really successful, ambitious go-getters, but to live in that world, it's meant sacrificing themselves, overgiving, overdoing, and it feels like they can't ever actually enjoy it, and that life is hard. Work is supposed to be hard.
Right.
Like almost a sense of guilt to take vacation or to not check your inbox on a weekend.
Oh yeah, exactly. No, and even growing up in an immigrant home where my parents, they worked factory jobs, and my mom, and she finally divorced from my dad, she took on 2 jobs. So I just grew up thinking, okay, well, also when I was a teenager, I'm like, I can get money anytime. There's help wanted signs everywhere. So I always easily found money. Like I could get a job, I could work at a theme park. So that I knew that money came easily if I just applied myself. But figuring out now in entrepreneurship, I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to work an hourly wage. So it's very hard to talk to my mom about what I do because she's coming from this hourly wage mentality of, wait, you're on a computer creating like graphics and this and that, and you have to wait around. And it just, the concept is not the same. It's not linear. So yeah, I completely understand.
Right.
And I've had to let go of my career, my engineering career, because I thought that was the only way. That's what was passed down to me. That's why my parents came here, for the better life, for the American dream.
And that's so powerful. I think it takes a lot of courage to accept within yourself that the identity that you held for yourself is no longer the identity that you're shifting into. And that was one of my biggest grief journeys around the grief of losing my husband, was the secondary losses of the grief of who I was. There are always the secondary losses in grief, but that I knew it was, even leading up to his death, I had this deep sense of, this is not working. Something has to change. I'm going to get there, but I want to really merge my love of the healing arts and my yoga and meditation career that was just a side hobby with conservation. And we had actually, still have the notes of our heartstorming sessions, writing them down, and what are the names of the foundation, or, create an NGO, or he was going to go back to get an MBA in sustainable business at a transcendental meditation place. So it was like, how can we piece like my love of conservation and ecology and community with actually making this in a business structure that is sustainable,
right?
Of, working the grind in an organization and feeling constantly burnt out, chasing grants, all of that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's amazing that you mentioned that, because I went and got my MBA in sustainability management. And I realized that even with that degree, I still had to lean on my spiritual work. And I continue to lean on that. The MBA is in the back burner. Oh, if you want a sustainable business, right? Like I know what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, in the end, I didn't lean on what I learned in my MBA. It's more of leaning into the intuition, the spirituality aspect, and what lights me up. So it's been quite a journey of, letting go of the patriarchy, like of the degrees, of the of the accolades, right? Because we all want to be like, I'm certified in this and this, and and some people ask me like, oh, so what's your certification? And I'm like, it's my experience. Like I embody it. And coming from engineering, where I always felt like an imposter, right? These theories that I've memorized or pushed through, but never really embodied. Now I fully embody what I do with my work, and my travels, my experiences. That is what I bring to the table. So it's so much more. It's so much juicier than a degree could ever be.
And it's so much deeper. And I think you and I both know this, it's having a ripple effect in ways that are unconscious. Maybe people aren't aware of the fact per se that how you're living and choosing to live, just by example, is planting seeds, and it's creating that disruption in their paradigm. And they might still choose their timeline, and the entrepreneurial path is truly not for everyone.
It's not. It's not for the faint of heart.
The riskiest.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready for all of the risks, for all of the like surrender.
Yeah.
It's okay that some people don't want that path. I completely respect if they want to in their timeline, but when you know you have it in you to show up in the bravery of, I'm going to do this because it's better to do this and, you know, fail or readjust than to not do it and know that I'm in my joy, I'm in my utter light doing it, because it lights you up and it gives you that deeper sense of purpose.
Yeah. And for me, the moment that I realized I needed to change was this exercise of what are people going to say at my funeral? And I didn't want to continue on as an engineer doing the work, the boring work that I was doing, because nobody would know what the impact. Yeah, that was the moment. That was a turning point. And I'm like, I need to change. And that kind of set me off on this journey of what do I want to do in this world? What type of impact do I want to bring? And I always came back to travel. Like, how can I make my life's work connecting back to travel, to stories? And yeah, little by little, the universe has opened the doors to me, like this podcast, right? Allowing me to, even though I'm not traveling at this very moment, but connecting with people that are traveling, that are connecting with their planetary energies. It's been a beautiful journey. You just never know what doors will open. Yeah.
Totally. And you are traveling a lot in the sense that you really, in your embodiment of your work, you're connecting through your energies and your lines through food and through art and clothing. Right. And so you're cultivating that in your daily life, and astral projecting. I'm pretty sure you do.
It's very true. Yeah, through my clients.
In your dreams.
Yeah, in my dreams.
So I think it's brilliant how I'm sure the engineering path didn't allow you to be in your fullest expression, because you are so expressed and you have such unique, vibrant, you're so passionate. And I can see how it would just be limited in this little box in the engineering world where you put your whatever, crunch your numbers in the computer and output, not really lighting up your soul.
It wasn't. And as a Pisces, the Neptune energy, where it's just like, I know I'm like this daydreamer.
You're too
right?
out there. Yeah. Dream way bigger than that.
Exactly. Like, I was always thinking of like my next trip. Like, I would come back from my trip, I'm like, when am I going to go back to Malaysia? Because that would connect me back to my purpose, since my moon node line is there. My partner is from Malaysia, so I'm always connecting to the moon node energy, my purpose. And with him as a projector, I'm the manifesting generator. I'm like the bully. You need to like produce. But he's the one that's slowed me down too, where he's creating art. He'll spend the whole day doing art, and I can't do that. I've tried. I thought that being creative was creating art, and I've tried it, and I can barely sit for 5 minutes and color, like those coloring books that are supposed to be meditative. I can't. Because I actually need to create something that's unique, that's from me. And I've realized that. So yeah, it's just been a very interesting journey to what is creative. And I love creating graphics for my business. Even in high school, that was one of my favorite things, creating flyers and all those things. And now it's coming full circle, and I'm realizing that I just love building my business. That is the creativity that I've always been seeking, but I didn't think was creative, was an artistic. Yeah.
What does creativity mean? Because
exactly
has this definition, and I had a lot of artsy, creative friends, and my husband was an artist, and I was just like, I'm trained as a scientist, and this is my path. So I'm not artistic, but actually I was suppressing creativity that wants to come through in a different way, that doesn't look like the societal, you paint or you draw or you're a graphic designer.
Because sometimes it's just strategizing, right? The way that you see things. Yeah, we view
cooking, just intuitively cooking and just not following a recipe or.
Amazing. So where do you see yourself moving? You've been to all these places. You've been very nomadic. Do you see yourself settling down at any point? Do you feel that coming through?
I've always been open to in all the places I've moved to and lived in, I've always been open to, okay, if I end up settling down here, great. I'm so open to it. And it's never happened. And I came to Mexico feeling that same way. I'm open to this being a permanent home. And I'm realizing I don't think this is the permanent home. This has played a huge, huge part on my evolution and my path.
Right.
I don't see it like as a long-term, my anchoring base. But I am connecting more deeply to my actual soul's desire to have a home base. And it was like scary to recognize, like, what? You actually want to have a home base? You've never done that before. You can do it. And like really anchor in. I think the things I really crave are having a garden, having kitties, having a partner. I'm very open to love, finding love again. It's been nearly 3 years since my husband's death.
Yeah.
And I'm very open to being in a solid partnership again. I think that would be wonderful. Yes, I think I'm putting that out there to the universe that I'm ready for a long-term home base. And from there, you know, doing retreats or going on personal soul-fulfilling sacred sites or places that I'm just intuitively called to for my work and just for my soul's gifts.
And being in Mexico, being on your moon line, which is meant to connect you with home energy, like family energy, I feel like it's cracked you open, right? To this is what I want. Like, this is the energy that I want. But it's very interesting that it's not there. You don't necessarily have to be on that line, but at least you've connected with that energy and you can bring it wherever you plan to go. Yeah. And any ideas like where that next place would be? I know Hawaii, you had some amazing energy, like Jupiter energy, right?
Yes, Hawaii, like especially I think Kauai and Oahu were in the center.
Yeah, you have a power zone there. So a lot of abundance and ease.
And I've definitely seen Hawaii in the future. It feels further off.
Right.
Feels more like 3 to 5 years. Maybe it will be a home base. I don't know. Truly, I'm open and I'm getting some niggles to some places. And right now, because I do have this tendency of really wanting to know and figure things out, and that is natural, and my surrender has really allowed me to come into these places very intuitively and let things be effortless and flow. And I've seen that I can do it, and this is what I teach people, is to get in your own flow state. So ego and rational mind, we don't need to know, like it'll happen how and where it happens, but I have had a few niggles. I'm not sure I want to share them.
Of course. And how do you incorporate all the energies now that you know where all your energies are? Have you been incorporating them unconsciously through like altar spaces, bringing in textiles or crystals, certain like artifacts from different places to connect with the energy, just to bring in the memories?
Definitely crystals. And I don't know if this sounds weird, but I love to go back at photos and photo albums of the places of those lines. And when I think of after my husband's death, going to one of my favorite countries is Madagascar. So I went back to a different part, and it was the most healing trip, and all of the wildlife came to me, and it felt like they were giving me soothing energy, you know, through my guide, maybe my husband helping send them. He's definitely on my spirit team. But through working with you, I realized I have all these lines right in that part of Madagascar. And I was like, oh, wow. So just like going back to the pictures and feeling that energy, or going back to pictures of other favorite kind of wildlife places that brought out the energies, brought out that wonder and that awe, and wow. Let's just dream. Let's just be in the universe. I'm open.
Yes, I love that. So you're more visual, so definitely bringing in the pictures or crystals. And it was interesting because I brought some crystals from Africa for this interview. One is black tourmaline from Namibia that I just got yesterday at a fair, and the other one is a jasper from Madagascar. So yeah, I thought it was just beautiful that
So perfect.
that connection. Yeah. And you had love energy also through, what is it, Kenya, and I had some soapstone from Kenya. So yeah, so that's always an amazing way to tap into these energies. Also, something that I'm going to play with is incorporating tea into like a way to connect to energies if the tea is sourced from a certain region. So rooibos tea would be from Africa, so maybe drinking certain rooibos
that's a really
tea.
good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to play with that coming up. There's some tea shops around the area, so I would love to have some Astrogeo tea night. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so how can people work with you? I will be working with you one-on-one very soon, but what are your offerings? What is the medicine that you offer to the world?
I want nothing more than to empower and equip people to be the creators of their lives. And so I've created a surrender method that I use in both a small intimate group. I don't like to say the word program because it really is more of like a journey or entering a portal. And it's more channeled, like what is maximum of 6 people who are of this overwhelmed, ambitious go-getters who are wanting to find enjoyment in their lives and break free of this calendar, being the prisoner of their calendar and all of their responsibilities while still being able to uphold their non-negotiables. And so I'm actually launching that this week. I'm doing the second launch for that starting tomorrow.
Amazing.
And slated to begin this summer as in North Hemisphere.
Yes.
And then I take a few one-on-one clients to do deep dives into a similar energy, but wanting more of the customized, intimate experience. And you get a lot of attention, unlimited Voxer or WhatsApp access to me, and we'll really customize all of the different meditations, somatic practices, kriyas, journal prompts, and whatnot. And that is called Emerge. The one-on-one Emerge is a 4-month minimum one-on-one journey with me. And then the Emergence is that small, intimate group portal over 6 months.
Yes. Amazing. And did you mention also the 1 month, the one-on-ones?
I'm not launching those currently, but every now and again, I sprinkle in a 1-month immersion if you want just like a little up, or you really want to dive in on one particular kind of goal or desire. And we'll go through a very intimate month together, like what you'll be doing with me.
Yeah.
To launch you into that next chapter.
I'm so excited to be working with you and learning from you. Yeah, all the listeners will be able to see my journey on Instagram as I post along the weeks that we work together. So thank you so much for being on today. Definitely follow Karlyn on Instagram. All her links will be in the show notes. Yeah, so thank you for being on.
Thank you so much. This was so fun to converse and share cosmic Astrogeo stories.
All the connections, exactly. So thank you so much. And remember, lineage goes beyond your ancestors. You are meant to connect to the cosmos so you may finally find your cosmic family. Until next time. Thank you for listening to Cosmic Roadmap. If you're curious about astrogeography and where you're meant to be on the planet, go to cosmicroadmap.com to download your free passport to purpose. You can also book a session with me where we can explore your own cosmic roadmap and chart your next destination in business, love, and life.